For folks who are just joining us, you can get a little bit of the sense of the sausage is made. We're keeping it very informal for everyone. But thank you for everyone who's taken a few minutes to join us on today's conversation. I think the Zoom room's all populated. Um, huge welcome to our panelists as well as to everyone joining us today. My name is Kristen Schrader, and I am going to be telling you a little bit more about this Salesforce Experience Builder Micro-Internship program, but mostly would love to stay a little bit on the quieter side because I am not the Salesforce expert. That's who you're here to hear. This is my pleasure to introduce our panelists who will be sharing their own expertise, and particularly Paulo Sembrano, who is a Salesforce user and has engaged a number of micro interns on projects already and participating in this program. So you'll hear straight from the source and the expert on how to take full advantage of this program. And also, I'm super excited to be joined by Christina Tekico, who's going to be sharing us as well a bit more about the Trailhead program and just really the brainchild behind this incredible opportunity. Without any further ado, again, welcome. Please keep the chat lively if folks have questions. We are recording the session, and we'll happily share both the slides as well as the recording to anybody who might need to hop early or if someone wasn't able to join. But again, want to stress that this is a really great opportunity, collaboration with Salesforce as well as with Parker Dewey. I'm here with the Parker Dewey team, and again, super excited to be facilitating the panel, but want to stay mostly quiet. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a plan for our time together before turning it over to Christina. So we're going to give you a little bit of background about the program, what are micro-internships, why this is a great opportunity for you, and how you can take full advantage of the program. But then most of our time is going to be hearing straight from Christina and Paulo about how they've participated in the program and some of the finer details. So again, I want to introduce Christina, if you want to tell us a little bit about where this program and how we all got started here.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be with you all today. So just a little bit of background, exactly as Kristen had indicated about why this. For a while now, we've been hearing from companies like you all, employers in our ecosystem, that it's been really hard to find qualified candidates because they really lack the real world experience, even though they may be certified and have great credentials, but they don't have that real world experience. And that makes many employers like you all hesitant to hire them. And then what we're hearing from job seekers is that, they have those credentials, they have their certifications, but they don't have that real world experience. And so what we're really seeing is that experience gap. And so we've been trying to think of ways to address that experience gap. And so that's where we are now. Next slide. So what we would like is a future state where our net new job seekers can work on real projects with real companies to get real experience, to really build up that experience. And so that's what gave this idea of this Salesforce Experience Builder. And we're piloting this right now, really to learn from this, to see if this is something that would give us test the hypothesis that we basically have, which is if we give qualified job seekers this real world experience working on real projects, would that make them that much more qualified for our employers? And so this micro-internship idea is giving these exactly that, giving these job seekers a real experience with real companies, and they're getting paid doing that as well. And then for companies and employers, you get to evaluate these job seekers during the project to see their actual technical skills, their on-the-job skills, and see if they are individuals that could be hired. So that's really the idea behind this pilot. Next slide. So, and what are micro-internships? Micro-internships are exactly what you see on the screen. They are short-term But they are actual projects. They typically take about 10 to 40 hours to complete them. They're available on demand. Job seekers can take on multiple projects to build their experience. They can work on these projects without stepping away from any current employment that they may be doing, but really gives them that opportunity to work on actual projects. As part of this pilot, there is no cost for job seekers or employers. They get to check out the projects, see if those are projects they're qualified for, and actually job seekers can apply. Employers like yourself can post those projects. They are under an NDA, and then the interns get a fixed fee. That we're hoping this model, through the pilot, we're learning to see if it can be easy to scale. And if it is, again, like I said, able to test out that hypothesis that we're really looking at. So again, then during this pilot, we are covering the cost for the interns, so that we can really test this model out. Next slide. I've said this, but it certainly makes sense to repeat it. And we're seeing this in the pilot, where our job seekers are really getting lots of great real life opportunities. You'll hear more about it from Paolo, but they're really getting some great real life opportunities. These are, actual projects. They're getting to work with employers like Paolo, where they're getting the on the job feedback as well. They're getting paid, they're getting mentorship and networking, and it's really allowing them to build not just their technical skills, but their confidence as well too. And then for the companies, you get to access and engage this whole new pool of talent. It really helps you to see if this is a candidate you want to hire. It helps you evaluate your hiring needs, and how this could align with it, and really see, where your niches and your gaps are as far as talent recruitment. Next slide. And so we have partnered with Parker Dewey. We're looking for a partner to help us test out this model. We chose Parker Dewey because of their excellent reputation and their experience in this area. This is something they know intimately. You see some of the customers and clients they've worked with, and they're really bringing that experience and that expertise. We'll talk a little bit more about how this all worked out, but they will be coming alongside you. And really helping to support not just you all, but of course our interns as well too. Next slide. And so just a little bit more on the pilot itself, where these job seekers are coming from. These job seekers are coming from our workforce development organizations that are doing Salesforce training. And so they are candidates that have the technical skills. They're working alongside their own organizations to help support them. They get exclusive access to these internships. They get to check out these internships. They get to see them as they're being posted. And if they qualify for it, obviously they apply for them. Employers and companies will get to post projects. Like I said, they're usually about 15 to 20 hours of work. We encourage job seekers to take on multiple projects as long as they're available to build that experience. The projects are really focusing on Salesforce skills. And so you can engage in multiple projects at the same time. You can engage with multiple job seekers at the same time. So we're really trying to be very flexible in making this happen. And so that's a little bit about the program. I think with that, I am turning this over to you, Kristen.
Perfect. So as I mentioned in the chat, this program is going on right now. There is nothing to prevent you if you have a project that is top of mind right now related to Salesforce, post it. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how you can get started. And if you're thinking, okay, but I don't really know what projects are on my to-do list. Well, if your desk looks like mine, I would imagine you probably aren't too far away from coming up with something. but this is how you can get that off of your to-do list so you can focus on something else. So first and foremost, start thinking through what are those projects. And one of the questions that we'll talk about with Paulo in just a moment is, how did you kind of come up with some of those projects that would be a good fit for this program? As Christina just mentioned, maybe that project is something that's bigger than 10, 15, 20. No worries, they can be bundled together. And again, we'll talk more about that in a bit. So post it on Parker Dewey. The link to do so, I just put in the chat. And if you missed it, I'll put it in there again. But you create a brief account, post that opportunity. You'll see some options on the site. You don't have to just limit yourself to those, but those are just a starting point to give you some ideas. From there, that project, as soon as it's posted, is live for the eligible job seekers to see. We'll talk more about the training that they've received and so on. So just again, stay tuned if you want to learn a little bit more about who these potential micro interns are. Well, you'll hear more about that shortly. You will only see students or job seekers who are eligible. So once you post your project, you'll get those applicants to your project. You'll only see those who've said, yep, I'm interested in this project. I want to apply. I want to work on this project. That's who you'll see for your applicants. And then you can log back into Parker Dewey, pick the student or a job seeker that you want to work with, and then you and that job seeker immediately start working with each other. So it's just as simple as that. They work on the project. You can meet with them as much or little as you'd like. We recommend that you have some sort of an onboarding kickoff conversation. And again, you'll hear more from Paulo about what that looked like in his experience. But then from there, they work on the project. You can think about something else because that work's getting done for you. And then when the project is completed, then you give the job seeker some feedback. They get paid by Parker Dewey. There's no out-of-pocket expense whatsoever from you for participating in this. Oh, and by the way, if you say, wow, this job seeker was amazing, I want to hire them for something longer term, another project, and an internship, a full-time, part-time role. Fantastic. As Christina mentioned, that is something that we hope will happen. We've already seen it happen. And so if there's no cost to you for hiring the person, right, any finders, none of that. That is ultimately our goal and mission, that this hopefully does turn into some sort of mutually beneficial long-term engagement between you and the job seeker. Now, a couple of fine points that we really want to make sure you're aware of is, as Christina mentioned, this is a pilot. And this is a pilot through the end of April. So do make sure that if you have and want to participate in this program, that you do so and post your project now while the funds in the program is still available. Hopefully it continues, but again, now is the time to take full advantage of the program. The project must be kicked off, meaning the student has, or the job seeker has been selected by April. All right, so, and I guess I see a question that's already come through. How and where can they apply to participate? So if the individual is a participant in one of the eligible workforce development organizations, and well, again, Christina will talk more about that shortly, that's how they'll know about and can participate in the program. So if the individual who asked the question is a job seeker, great, but they do need, for this pilot at least, the job seekers need to be part of an eligible workforce development organization who's also participating in this program. So just to break it down a little bit more specifically, so step one, post that project. It takes 5-10 minutes to post your project. You can choose from the templates or you can create something from scratch. When you've posted the project, we tend to see within a day, maybe 2 days, folks are going to start applying to these opportunities. It tends to be very quick. These job seekers are really excited to put their experience to, or their training to work on these different opportunities. So you will only see those who applied. Pick one of those individuals, and then the job seeker starts working on the project. When you're done with the, or when they're done with the project, let us know via the Parker Dewey platform, and we'll pay the student or the job seeker, and then complete the survey, and you're good to go. Just to give you a bit of an illustration of that, this is the program website that I put in the chat. And again, those project templates are designed to give you a starting point. So just to illustrate for you how that all works, and just real quickly, you can click this Get Started for Free button. That'll get you up and running. And if you have one of these projects on your to-do list, or maybe it's not even something you would have thought of. Oh yeah, AI research. Yeah, I don't know too much about AI. It's a whole new thing for my organization. Well, maybe this is a project that might be something that would be helpful to you, or you have a data analysis project, or some sort of connecting sources with Salesforce, optimizing workflows. We've seen several of those projects already. So again, I'll pick on AI research just because I happen to choose that one. You can create an account super quick and easy. And once that account has been created, that project will pre-populate for you. You can make modifications to the description however you like, change the dates, however it works best in your schedule. I do recommend that you pick a start date that's going to be sooner than later, because that way folks who are applying right now can get started and you'll be able to get this project completed that much more quickly. To the question that just came up about, can this be an in-person or in a hybrid capacity? That's a really great question. For these projects, remote is best. That way the job seekers and you don't have to worry about the logistics of thinking through where are they going to sit, how and when do they come into the office, etc. So it'll toggle to remote as a default. So do make sure that you keep it here in remote, because that, again, makes it easier for you. We do request location so that you and the job seeker can coordinate time zones. It might be helpful to know if they're on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast, or vice versa, again, just to keep everybody in sync. The rate of pay is all, again, prepaid by Salesforce. You don't need to worry about anything here. That's what it means when it says you are participating in a program funded by a third party. You will not be charged. Again, this is part of, and thanks to the amazing Salesforce Trailhead team led by Christina and her colleagues. And we know that this particular program is part of, or this project, excuse me, is part of this program because of this Salesforce Experience Builder affiliation that's in the profile. Having this here not only lets us at Parker Dewey know that this is where the program is funded through, but it also helps us to make sure that only the eligible job seekers will be able to see that project. So do keep that as it is in the question. And then speaking of questions, or in the application, excuse me, is you can add additional application questions if you like. And that way you can see if the job seeker has a little bit more expertise in specific areas or what have you. You can certainly add questions as needed. But whenever you're ready, click Post Now. Project is visible for the applicants and waiting for folks to apply. So hopefully that answered a couple of the questions that is available there. And let's see, so I think that will take care of a few of the questions. If you do have others, I know it seems most of them are related to the job seekers themselves. But if you have questions about posting, please feel free to let us know. And again, once the job seeker has been selected, you and them will immediately receive each other's contact information, along with some best practices, both for you and for the micro intern, so that you both can know some best practices on how to work together. As Christina shared, Parker Dewey, we've been doing this for quite a few years now. We actually coined the phrase of micro intern, and we've been running programs like this for over 8 years. And so we want to share those best practices with you so that you and that job seeker get off on the right footing with each other. We definitely recommend schedule a 10-15 minute kickoff call. And know that you have resources both from our team as well as the job seeker has their workforce organization that they can work with, and they get some tremendous support from. And then finally, when the project's completed, you mark it as complete. We pay the job seeker, complete a brief survey to let us know how it all went from your perspective, and that's as simple as it goes. So there was a question that just came through. If you've already worked with a micro intern via the Parker Dewey system, great, welcome back, thank you. But you certainly don't need to create a new account. Just go from this project website, or this program website that we have here in the chat, because that will make sure that Salesforce Experience Builder affiliation is tied to the program. Having this in your profile when you're posting that project helps us to know that that project is tied to this program, as opposed to other projects that you might be working on and maybe self-funding or whatever the case might be. So hopefully that answers that question, Shirley. And let's see. And then the question that came through, if you missed the link to this program website, I just put that, William, back in the chat. So again, hopefully that helps get you started. Perfect. So without any further ado, y'all didn't want to hear from me, I'm sure, because let's hear straight from the experts. And my privilege to now introduce Paulo Sembrano. Paulo has been a successful supervisor, if you will, of a micro-intern already, and is the business solutions designer with Common Sense Media. And Paulo, just to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about both yourself and your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Paulo. I'm the business solutions designer at Common Sense Media. Business solutions designer is just a fancy, pretentious way of saying I work in setup all the time and just work on all the technical stuff. Common Sense Media is the nation's leading nonprofit that works around digital and technology advocacy for kids and families. So we do stuff around policy work. We do stuff around like digital citizenship and education for schools. And you probably know us the best because you probably checked if Zootopia was okay for your kids to see, because that's our bread and butter. We write reviews for movies and TV shows, but I always have to stress this, not in a moralistic panic way, just kind of, hey, here's what it is. We think it's great for 14 and up, but you make the call at the end of the day. So
thank you. And as a parent, thank you for that kind of work that you're doing. Very helpful and important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But just speaking to our audience here, just curious to know, how do y'all use Salesforce in your day-to-day?
Salesforce, we use in multiple ways. I mean, we always try to use it as our single source of truth. So, we're running our development fundraising programs. All of that like opportunity and donation data gets sent into Salesforce. Our development team is able to report on it, glean insights from all of the analytics and stuff like that. We have our education teams run some of their auxiliary programs through there. So then, there's a lot of automation work. There's a lot of email stuff that goes out. We use it as our internal case management platform. So just like an all-arounder kind of, we keep track of our money. We keep track of contractors. We keep track of, all of our newsletter subscribers. We use that with Marketing Cloud. So there's a lot of stuff that we use the platform for over at Common Sense Media. So
awesome. And how much of your day would you say you spend in Salesforce, given all that?
All day, every day. So it's either Salesforce or Visual Studio Code, because I am trying to teach myself to be a developer. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Christina, a question for you about the job seekers themselves. If you could tell us a little bit about the type of training that they've received and just who these job seekers are.
Definitely. And I do see some questions asking about the job seekers. Unfortunately, because it is a pilot, it is a closed pilot for job seekers. But this is really giving us the opportunity to test this pilot out, as I said. So the job seekers are coming from our workforce development organizations. We've selected 8 workforce development organizations across the U.S. That provide Salesforce training, and so they do it either in they do it in cohorts. They have different industry focus. They are, like I said, spread out across the country. They're pretty aggressive in their training, which is really great because it's giving us the opportunity to really make that connection between training and now experience. And so most of these job seekers that are applying for these internships are either current cohorts or alumni. So they've graduated, they got the training, and now they're working on getting that experience. Many of them do have come with certifications, or if not, they are preparing for their certifications as part of that workforce development program that they have. And so these are job seekers, while they are applying for these internships, many of them you'll see their workforce dev orgs actually partnering with them and with you as well too. They may be reviewing the skill set that's needed for these projects and going them over with the job seekers. And we know that's a very important consideration for our employers because they are working in these these interns are working in real life sites and not sandboxes. And so we want to assure you that, and Paolo can certainly speak to this, but we want to assure you that we're not setting them free. They do provide the workforce dev orgs do provide some supervision to help them as well. So anyway, in other words, this pilot will help us learn what is needed, what specific skill sets are needed for these projects. And after this pilot, we'll be looking through the lessons learned. We'll be getting lots of feedback from our employers about what worked and what didn't work. And of course, working with Parker Dewey on these lessons learned. And that will help us inform us as to whether to take this to scale and be able to open this broader and more openly to our ecosystem as well.
Perfect, thank you. And yeah, just to hit on a couple points, these are folks that are just going through the training as well. So they're going to really know the most current versions of Salesforce, everything that it's very much just in time. And it's folks that are really eager to put to work what they've learned. And Paulo, back to you. You worked on several different job seekers already through the program. What kinds of projects did you have these folks work on?
I wish I could codify it because it's all in my head, and I'm not saying that because it's like, oh, I don't know, it's willy-nilly, but like kind of the sweet spot I always look for is kind of quality of life projects that are like, that would be useful to have a dynamic form, but I'm too busy with other projects. So it always falls to the wayside where it's not high priority, but I know that it would have a pretty good ROI or at least improvement, of quality of life on the day-to-day for our users. I always try to meet them where they're at as far as skill level goes. So I'm always asking if they're comfortable with flows or what their experience is. So I'm always trying to tailor to what they're used to. So I am not throwing them to the wolves. So, I mean, for example, I was working with one intern, Larissa Castanelos, and I am butchering her name, but we had to delete a bunch of fields from our contact object. They were all depreciated. No one was using it. And it's, again, I could do that, but I've been at the organization for 4 years and I am trying to work on higher level projects, but I could, or I can throw Larissa at it, who's just getting started. And basically her whole project was literally, hey, Larissa, try to delete these fields. We know we can't delete them, but we just need you to like document what old process builders and flows are referencing these fields so that we can get rid of it. Can you also get rid of those fields in our sandbox? So like her job was literally just a faceplant into like 60 error messages for her project and document it. But I'm like adamant that like we wouldn't have done it without her because yeah, her job was to like faceplant. It took her 20 hours to do it. Like, again, I could have done that, but why? I'm trying to like build Lightning web components with no prior development background. So I think that's kind of the sweet spot I try to hit with the project. So meet them at their skill level, know that they're just fresh, haven't worked in a production org before, stuff that would probably be an improvement of quality of life for us, but is a low priority. Yeah, that's what I try to base projects around. So
that's a good way to think of it. Quality of life, your quality of life, and what's a great experience for these folks. We joke internally at Parker Dewey that we call these the "we should but I shouldn't" projects. So we really should do X, Y, Z, but I shouldn't because I just don't have the time, or I don't really want to spend my Saturday doing that, or whatever. So
yeah, and again, kind of speaking to the experience, it's like I was working with another intern, Tala, and she had some experience with flows, and I just needed her to retrofit a bunch of existing flows to add a subflow I built. And again, I could do it. I could probably turn it around the time it took me to write out the documentation. But again, why? When I have other stuff to work on. And two, I'm going to give this person like live production experience, and I don't want to like rob them of that. Or it's just like, yeah.
No, that's thank you. That's great, great insight as to start to think through the to-do list. Once you've selected the job seekers for your projects,
Mhm.
what kind of onboarding did you provide for them?
Literally, I spun up a new sandbox in our org, mainly for contractors. That was a fresh refresh of all of the live production metadata. And I basically had IT provision them on Slack so that there was a Slack channel for us to communicate on, or if we can use Slack to chat. And I provisioned them in contractor. So we didn't have to go through a lot of like, give them an @commonsense.org email or have them sign any paperwork. It was really like, hey, I'm gonna walk you through the project. I'm gonna make myself available. If you have any questions, DMs are open. Feel free to like ask anything. No question is too dumb. Just don't be afraid to reach out. And that was basically it. I wrote out documentation for them to follow, and it was off to the races from there.
Yeah, keep it simple. And I love the idea of using Slack. If that's what works best for your organization, awesome.
Yeah.
I know we're heavy Slack users here, but it's yeah, whatever platform. We used to use Google Meets back in the day, and yeah, so it again that makes it real easy what works best for you. Did you have any sort of onboarding Zoom or some other call with them to get them started, or was it just kind of all via?
It was kind of rolled into one.
Okay.
I guess when it was just when I was, because I've worked with both Larissa and Tal on like multiple projects.
Mhm.
And I think the first time we did meet, it was just like, hey, like this is how you log into your sandbox. This is how you use Slack. Here's also the project. So I think that like kind of, I don't know, onboarding overhead was a bit lower than if I was working with like a full-blown contractor or full-blown intern. So yeah, yeah, I sorry that sounds so nonchalant, or if that's not like best practices or whatever, but yeah.
But a little bit of onboarding and they're off to the races. So that's
Yeah. And it's literally like I use their personal email. We go do Slack. Here's your login for our contractor sandbox. Here's the project documentation. So
keep it simple.
yeah.
Perfect. One question that we've received from some of the companies that have inquired about the program is how you help, or how do you help a job seeker work in this live production environment, and maybe a little bit of nervousness about turning somebody loose in that environment. Could you talk us through, from your perspective, how did you make that work for the projects that you engaged the micro interns on?
I think priority one at the org was like, we're not afraid of people screwing up in sandboxes. So if we just give them access to like like a production refresh in a developer sandbox for them to work on, they can make the mistakes, they can screw it up in there. Because the worst case is that we just refresh it again, and then it's just like no harm, no foul. But I think that's the main thing. And I'm not sure if how other people's orgs are set up, but yeah, I think just giving them that freedom to like move around, and just knowing as the internal in-house cat, like, well, if they screw up, they'd really just refresh it. I walked through the process, with them a couple of times during like our onboarding call. So I just say, I'm going to share my screen. Here's the org instance. I need you to go here, do this, create this variable, create this element, go into like flows. So I think I try to mirror it for them, and again in contractor, and then just not so much let them figure it out, but do their stuff, and then if they have any questions, like come to me. So, and I still am like that person in the loop that's like still QAing everything. So before I even deploy to like our normal developer sandboxes, I test it out, I check if everything was like up to par as what I was looking for. Then I just deploy it to dev, and I kind of just go from there. So
perfect. Pretty straightforward to sound from your experience, but don't overthink it. I think another question that came up actually over the weekend was an organization that said, well, I only have so many licenses, so how can I work with a variety of different students, or I have a variety of different projects? And a solution for that is you can stagger them. You can have one student work or one job seeker work on a project for the next couple of weeks, and then they can work on, and then another student work on another one. Paulo, I know you've worked with a couple of different job seekers. Is that kind of the philosophy or the strategy that you used for that?
We had enough licenses. I was able to provision Larissa and Talo both with their own logins, but I can totally see, like, if you are limited in your licenses, maybe just coming up with a generic Parker Dewey, intern user, and then just resetting password for whoever you want to have the user at that time. So I think that's totally viable. So
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we do with similar, because we work with micro interns all the time. So yeah, that's great. Christina, one of the things we keep hearing from companies is this sounds too good to be true. I'd love to hear your response to that from, why is Salesforce doing this?
Of course. So as you all, probably those of you that are familiar with Salesforce, with Trailhead, we believe in learning and earning and connecting. And so we've been working with job seekers and with employers in our ecosystem for a while now. And we've been trying different ways to help to address help our employers find the talent they're looking for. And we've been hearing repeatedly from employers and from our job seekers about this experience gap. And so we really try to think how we can help this experience gap, how we can bridge this gap. And so that's really what gave birth to this idea of testing it out. Unfortunately, it is a pilot, so it is a little more restricted in what we can and cannot do at this point. But we want to test this out. It's important for us to see if this will work. It's important to see if, as I said, if the hypothesis we're trying to test and prove makes sense and it actually works. And so this is a learning experience for us too, as well. And so not only do we want employers to post their projects and to give these job seekers a chance to prove their skill set, we're going to be circling right back and asking the employers and the job seekers, what are some of the lessons learned? What worked? What didn't work? This is really important for us to understand if it works and understand if it doesn't work. And so to us, this is just as important for us to see if this works and be able to then make the determination if this is something that we can scale. So it's only part one of a very long process for us here, but that's what we're really all about, is that earning and that connecting and that learning too. So
We all love and appreciate this. This is a new ecosystem they have to be able to figure out, how do you engage folks that are trying to build their careers, maybe from scratch, maybe they have done other things and are relaunching their career and is doing something new. And as we all look at our own professional journeys, we probably can relate to the backgrounds that some of these folks may have taken a non-traditional path to be able to end up where they are. There was a really interesting question, actually, Christina. I'm going to see if you can shed some light on this that just came up in the chat. Is that, does Salesforce have different levels of administrators? And if you could kind of talk through a little bit about the level that the job seekers that are working in this ecosystem, or at least on these projects, that they might be able to come with.
Yeah, so remember, most of these job seekers are net new to our ecosystem. And so that's really where they are at. They may have skilled up. They have skilled up. Like I said, they may or may not have their certification. For the most part, they are net new. Does that mean that they are new to the work experience? Not necessarily. We may also have some job seekers that are career switchers, and so they bring some transferable skills with them. But for the most part, they are net new to our ecosystem. And so that's something to keep in mind as you think of projects that make sense for them. Keeping in mind that these are relatively green job seekers, but if you give them a chance, I'm sure they can prove that their skill sets are there. And because we are opening up so that you can post more than one project, so you can certainly start building up that skill set and increasing that difficulty as you go from there. And so you can certainly explore that and see what works and see what the candidates. I know that you as employers, once you've posted your projects, you get to see the candidates that apply. You get to make that decision on who best meets your skill set. Parker Dewey is available to help consult you, and if you need to, chop that project into more bite-sized pieces or make that project make sense for someone that's a little more net new, or if you had a great experience and you want to try part two, we can certainly do that. Again, these are all models we're trying to test. These are all things we're trying to test and see what makes sense. So.
Yeah, because aligns with that learning and philosophy, which I love. So that's awesome. And just to also kind of reiterate, another organization that not only participated in this program but ended up hiring the individual that she worked with. I'm gonna put in the chat the comment, but I'll read it aloud. So the Salesforce Experience Builder Micro-Internship Program is a great internship to hire model. You can interview, but you don't really know how you'll work with a person until you actually work with them. With this program, you get to try someone for 20 hours and make sure that your working styles match, and at no cost. So it's a huge credit to the amazing team at Salesforce to be able to bring this innovative model to you all and to be able to help you connect with this highly motivated population of job seekers, because we're seeing it work and seeing folks not only be given opportunities, but it be a mutually beneficial way for you to determine that, wow, this amazing individual that I never would have met otherwise is the greatest next hire for my team. So, and maybe not immediately, but Paolo, love to hear your thoughts about the folks that you worked with. Would you consider hiring any of them or something if you did have an open role on your team?
I straight up asked like Larissa, like if she can like level like skill up and flow, I would totally go to bat for her if we wanted to bring her in as a full-time contractor, because she has that familiar. She had to walk through like live orgs, and I just want to stress that like, yeah, there is such value in just walking through like a live org with like the tech debt and just all of the stuff that's not like a factory fresh off the lot like developer org or something you're working in Trailhead. So I think there's just so much value of having to like navigate through that stuff and knowing like this is something, there's stuff that you're going through, but yeah, like I got off track, I'm sorry. But yeah, Larissa is familiar with the org now because she had to trudge through all of that tech debt. And also she is like a receptionist at like Kaiser Permanente. So she had those soft skills around like interpersonal. She was incredibly detail oriented. She was coachable. Like she would come to me with questions and I would just be like this. She would be like, this is a dumb question. I would just be like, no, like tell me, And I think, I don't know, this is a tangent on top of a tangent, like the balance of like being available versus like them figuring it out, I think is something that I'm trying to do so that they can kind of get that, that skill set. Like, yeah, I think the program actually resonates a ton. I'm not sure if this is going to be a talking point or if we can bring it up later, but yeah, I was a career pivoter. I came up through Pep Up Tech, which is another kind of Salesforce training program. And it was really hard for me to get my foot in the door, So I think I look at the Larissa and Tala, the folks I've been working with, and there's this kind of like, well, I'm not sure if this is narcissistic or not. It's like I kind of want to be the person that like I didn't have like coming up in the scene. So I think there's a lot of mentorship and there's a lot of like, yeah, I want to leave you in a place where your resume is going to look way better. You can use me as a reference. Like you're going to come out looking more knowledgeable, more skilled, resumes filled out because of this. So I think as the supervisor, as the person as their main point of contact at the org, like, yeah, I think that's something that's incredibly top of mind for me, where like it is useful and they are getting these kinds of skills and almost like, how can we make this look very strong on your resume when you're like looking for stuff? So.
And I wouldn't call that narcissistic. I would call that altruistic. You want to give back and pay it forward. That's incredible. So thank you, Paolo, for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So another question then, if you have somebody who's joined us today that says, okay, great, but I don't have a project, can't think of anything. What would you say if they, still, I can't think of that Salesforce related project, particularly something that could be done in that 15, 20-hour time frame.
Uh, there's always room for documentation. Like like at our team, like we always kind of bemoan how like none of us are great at documentation. And I think having maybe just do you want to have an audit of all of your like flows? Like just throw an intern at them and just be like, hey, I need you to go through all these flows and give me the name and the API name and the version. Like that was kind of like Larissa's project as well. It was like categorizing. So if you don't have like a project, I think there's still value in having someone walk through an org and just documenting like, oh, this is how people in a live environment use Salesforce on the reg. And again, you kind of get this quality of life bump because now like you can see at a glance how many flows you have, how many process builders you have, field usage. So I think there's definitely value in kind of just knowing I need light on something, I could do it, but why? I can give this to someone, I can give this to a micro intern who could fill out, and not only will I get my insights, but they'll get that like live experience as well. So
Absolutely. Those research projects are some of the best micro internships. You get that fresh perspective. It tends to be something that nobody has enough hours in the day to do. And now you have that resource. I know I've worked on a bunch of different projects with students throughout the years that have really helped unlock some time and bring to light something that I would have otherwise missed. We actually have 7 different micro interns working on a project right now with one of my colleagues who's testing various processes and kind of doing user experience testing.
Yeah, I had Tala working on that while I was on like PTO last week of like, I built some forms in Form Assembly, which is like a third party app that connects to Salesforce. I just need you to like run through these testing scenarios and just go through them and then just let me know, did they work or not? And if they didn't, what was the error message? Again, like before that, it was literally like my job also to like build it and like test it. So Tala effectively cut down by like my like work overhead by half. So yeah, it was incredibly useful. So I had Larissa just kind of, literally go through what I said of like, go through all of our inactive process builders, document them and delete them in Contractor. Literally, that was the job, where it's like, that would be nice, but between our 3-person team that works in Salesforce, like none of us have time to do that. So it helps us move our org forward without sacrificing, our own like, personal bandwidth or burning out, while giving us the time to also focus on other big picture items. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know there's been some questions in the chat, and I know we've tried to keep up with some of those are related to folks who are real excited to participate on some of the projects, Paulo, that you're describing. So, which is great. And I put my email in the chat. So if you do have questions about participating as a micro intern, please feel free to reach out to me directly, because there are, as Christina mentioned, restrictions on who is eligible to be a participant as a micro intern. And so we want to make sure that you are affiliated with the right folks and be able to be eligible to participate, because again, this is a pilot program. And so I'll put my email address one more time in the chat, just in case you missed it beforehand. But I'd love, Christina, turn it back over to you if you have some words of advice for any of the attendees, kind of the reciprocal question that Paulo just answered. Paulo was talking about different projects that might be a good fit, but Christina, I'd love to get your perspective on that as well.
Definitely. So for any of our employers that have joined us today, we would love for you to post those projects. We can only give these interns the experience if there are projects there. And so we want you to be able to post those projects. We're trying to really, Paulo will give you some great ideas about some projects that could be posted. We want you to take a chance, take a risk on these interns. You will be able to see their skill set up front and be able to really get some work done, get some work off your plate, which is great, but also really help address any talent pipeline strategies that you may be considering for this year and how you can get those talent in the door. And so, this is a closed pilot. It is ending end of April, so take advantage of that time now. If you're not, don't have any projects or that you can think of, but your colleagues in your network do, tap that. That would be great for us. This is something that we are really looking for. Don't have to be any grandiose projects, but any projects that can help our interns get their hands wet and really test their Salesforce skills would be great. This is something that we are really looking for, partnering with you all as our customers in our ecosystem to really test this model out for us as well too. So this will help answer many questions that we have here at Salesforce. So definitely something for love for your participation in.
Yeah, and I just wanted to jump in. I'm Jeffrey. I'm the founder of Parker Dewey. I'm first of all so honored to be part of this program. Like the work that Christina in Salesforce is doing around this is just incredible. I mean, there's so few opportunities out there where an organization like Salesforce can support both its clients and partner customers, but also learners, and also do good for the community and for society. It's just a great shining example of where you can create those win-wins. And to the earlier comments, I mean, everyone has these projects, these we shoulds and I shouldn'ts, these projects that may not be glamorous for someone with 10 years of experience as a Salesforce admin, that may not be the best use of time. But as you can see from the chat with the number of learners who joined, they're hungry for these opportunities. They're hungry to demonstrate their skills. They're hungry to build those relationships. And it makes your life easier because you're able to get help on those projects. But it also feels really good to give someone that opportunity. And it could lead to a full-time hire down the road. But even if you don't have those full-time needs, it's still helping you get the project done and providing that learner with that valuable experience that the data shows leads to full-time roles down the road. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to Christina and Paulo for joining. This is just such an amazing program. And obviously my colleague, Kristen, who does all of the work on our side. I've been sitting here listening, and I'm blown away reading the chat and listening to the comments from the ground. So thank you for letting us play a small part in this.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And I'm going to put one more quote in the chat from another participant, another organization. This is from Ellen Pace, the Executive Director of Global Learning at WPP at CP. And again, this kind of addresses one of the questions that I asked Christina earlier about too good to be true. There is such a thing as free lunch, and this is it. This is straight what Ellen shared. So as a newer Salesforce users, we utilize this program for a non-technical project. Be sure to take advantage of this opportunity to connect with early career talent before it's gone. And so if I could kind of leave with one final comment, at least from my end, that I think Ellen said it best in terms of why take advantage of this and why right now. So as a kind of final comments around, just at least from our perspective, how to get started. And I would imagine some of you might be drafting your project right now. I'm all for multitasking. That's great. But go ahead and figure out what's on that to-do list that you can delegate. Take full advantage of this program by once again putting these micro interns to work and getting that to-do list a little bit shorter for you. And then Christina, I think you brought up a fantastic point in that to-do list may not be your own item that's on top of mind, but you are welcome to share this program with your colleagues. So while the job seekers, the micro-intern list is a closed list of participants, the organizations just need to be Salesforce customers. So that is open as far as a company or customer participant. So if you are a Salesforce user, you can take advantage of this program and definitely want to encourage you to do so. Paulo, I'm going to go ahead and give you one final opportunity because I know if you have any final words of advice, your perspective and experience is most relevant of anybody. So
Oh,
love to, and again, thank you, for joining us and sharing your insights. But if you have any final comments, words of advice, questions, or what have you that we haven't covered.
oh, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be on this panel with y'all today. It's really flattering. Let me see. I have one more thought, but it's centered about me and it might just bleed into interns. So if you'll give me the room to kind of, but I've been at Common Sense for 4 years. It is my first job in the ecosystem. I will always be grateful for this org for giving me a chance. But the Friday before I left for PTO the other week, Tala, one of the interns I've been working with, like reached out on Slack and was like, hey, I might take on this project from a client. Can Salesforce do technical thing? And I immediately like, oh boy, we're turning this into a mentorship session where it just was turned into like, what is the client's business process? What do they need? And it turned into kind of like, yeah, I was telling her how to think about process and interfacing with stakeholders and pushing back and asking these questions, because it was like, bro, my first year, I was just throwing technology at problems too, instead of finding out what the root issue was. So again, being able to like pay it forward and kind of like imbue knowledge that I wish I had coming up, that was a really like feel good moment for me. And Talo seemed to be really happy with with those insights, and just basically just telling her, go back to that client and then just put them through their paces. That's what you're there to do, you know? So, but yeah, I think again, if you know what you want to do, if you know what the skill level, and you just put it out, you're gonna find folks that can do it for you. And the worst case, if you follow what I do, you have documentation for processes now. So that's the absolute worst case, is that now you have documentation about projects and processes at your org, which would be useful. So yeah, I guess that's about the long short of it for me. So
No, that's awesome. No, thank you so much, Paulo. I mean, I know on behalf of Tala and the thousands of micro interns that we hear from and work with day in and day out, it's folks like you that really makes huge difference in being able to help folks launch their careers.
yeah,
We all can remember we just need that opportunity, and
yeah.
this can be it. And that's also where I want to just say another huge thank you to Christina and your leadership and teams, and being able to provide this incredible opportunity, both for customers and for these eager job seekers. And final thank you to everyone who's joined us today, because it certainly wouldn't be a program if we didn't have you all and your interest and participation. So to that end, I want to encourage you, take full advantage of this incredible opportunity now to April. So you've got some time, but not much time. So we definitely want to encourage you and take full advantage. If you have any questions, don't be a stranger. The Parker Dewey team is here and happy to answer any and all questions from both job seekers as well as from organizations who are joining us today. And with that, I'll bid you all a great rest of your Monday, and thank you again.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a great day.